Okay, yogis, let's break down headstand. Classic variation A with the fingers interlaced, elbows wide, and bouncing on the forearms. So, fingers interlaced looks like unshakable trust, right? We worked with that a lot today. And you're going to want to make sure that your elbows aren't too wide. And you want to make sure they're not too narrow either here. So, for me, the sweet spot tends to be where you can see that the elbows will stay in line with the shoulders, right? If they're too narrow, you're balancing on a much smaller shape. If they're too wide, right, you're balancing on a smaller center of balance. So if you have a bigger triangle here, nice and equilateral triangle is what it looks like for me here, that will give you a better center of gravity. So there's going to be a couple of stopping points along the way. You don't have to go into the full shape. Maybe the feet don't even leave today, but you will start to build the foundations if you start to practice the building blocks. Right? And the whole point of these shapes is it teaches us that number one, we have to start somewhere. Well, two, right? First of all, the thing is that you have to believe that you can do it. It doesn't have to happen today, but one day it will. But for that to happen, you have to start somewhere, and then you have to keep practicing, and you have to stay strong, and you go through the practice of letting go of your ego, of thinking that you have to get the shape or that you're a failure if you don't. You go through the exercise of believing your personal power and your confidence. And that's actually the whole point of it, right? Being able to get your legs up in the air, that's great. But what does that really help with us in life? So, some things to think about once you are upside down, because once you get upside down, things start feeling really crazy and confusing. So, while you're here, think about this, right? You have your base set up now, you have your triangle. You got to press into your elbows a lot, right? The more you press down into the elbows, the more the shoulders are going to activate, right? Versus sinking down and not having any structure. You press into the elbows, the shoulders start to work and they start to carry the shape. You're pressing down into the forearms, and then that will take the weight off the neck, right? So we want to be careful in headstand that we don't just drop into the neck like this. We want there to still be space without there being too much pressure onto the crown of the head, because that's when the weight starts to dump on the neck, and we want to keep the neck safe. So using your shoulders and your elbows is going to help you. So setting it up, interlace your fingers, unshakable trust, the mudra of confidence and bravery. Drop your forearms down, and then the elbows come down, shoulders width, right? So check in that you're not going too wide where it's a much wider triangle. I forgot what they're called. Geometry I took in 8th grade. I don't know, isosceles triangle, is that what they're called? And you don't want it to be a super narrow one either, right? And then you're going to make sure that it's the very center crown of your head. Take your pointer finger, find that sweet spot. You're going to know it right away. It's your 7th chakra. It's that highest energy center. You want to make sure you land that part of your head onto the mat. So it's not here in the front, and it's definitely not your hairline. So that's what I see a lot actually. And when you do that, if you land on your hairline or the fronter part of the skull, when you come down, your neck is going to be cranked and your chin is going to jut out. And then look at that pressure that's going to come onto your neck. That's what you want to avoid. So the center crown of the head is going to let your neck stay nice and long, extension of the spine. And then that's going to allow you to stack everything, right? So crown of the head will touch down, the shoulders will be above, the hips will then be in line, right? So we don't want this. We don't want all that crunching down into the neck without the support. So make sure it's the center crown of the head that drops down into the basket of your hands. Right, and roll around there until you feel it. And the palms are behind, and the elbows, again, you should see them. And then you may even just work here and press into the elbows, scoop the belly up. So that same action we've been working on today where we draw inwards from the core. And notice how suddenly there's not a lot of weight on the neck, right? The crown of the head is touching down, but it actually feels pretty light there. And that might be the first step for you to headstand. And that's an awesome and a very important building block. Once you feel comfortable there, you can tuck your toes and then, like a down dog, lift your seat up. And you can work here, and there's a little bit more pressure now into your head. And notice that, and then press into your elbows and activate your shoulders again, right? See if you could almost like lift your head off the ground. You don't want to do that, but you want to feel that freedom where the shoulders are working so hard, and then keep lifting the tail up.
right? And then so that might be your stopping point, and that is training your body to put some weight more forward into the elbows and into the forearms and see what it feels like when there's a little bit of pressure on the crown of the head. And then you work there until you quote unquote master that. Like, do we ever really master anything? No, we keep on learning. Every time I show up on the mat, I learn something, even if it's in a shape that I've done literally thousands and thousands of times. So, all right, you're there. You feel pretty good. Next step, walk your feet in closer. This will help the hips start to move forward over the spine, right? And so once you're there, if you want, you can take one foot up towards your seat. See how that feels. Checking that you're pressing into your elbows, weight's not crunching into the neck. Check with the other one, right? And at some point, the next step will be you're going to do the little egg-shaped ball, and it just takes a leap of faith and a lot of core strength. It's like doing a crunch, hugging the thighs into the chest, right? And you may be tempted to want to suddenly fling your legs up and thinking that that's the goal. Try and resist doing that. Work in this variation until it feels really sturdy. And then you'll start to lengthen a little. And maybe you'll stay there for a while. And then maybe you'll lengthen a little more, right? And it's a slow process. And then one day you may get the legs completely straight up towards the sky. And if that feels wobbly, maybe you work at a place where the legs are slightly angled forward. That helps with the center of balance until that feels sturdy. And then you straighten out a little more, but you may not be straight, right? And that's okay. And you play with that. Legs reach up actively. Keep pressing into elbows. Keep checking in that you press into the elbows to make sure that you're not crunching into the head or into the neck. Legs are not just dangling in space, they are actively reaching up, right? So point your toes, spiral your thighs inwards towards one another, almost like the knees could turn inwards towards one another, and then energize the toes straight up. Think of that Venus mudra. Focus the energy up, and then when you need to come out of it, you'll come out of it. Child's pose, fingertips will reach back, crown the head will dive in. Everything slumps down and melt on in, right? And you'll probably roll out of it. You'll probably topple out of it a few times, and maybe more than a few times. I certainly fell out of it hundreds and hundreds of times, probably thousands of times before I got it. And that's okay. That's part of the process, right? Part of the process of getting over yourself and thinking that you should be able to get it on an early try, or that you might even get it every time. I still fall out of headstand sometimes if I'm not working on my focus and all the elements. Maybe it's just one day that my body feels different. Some days I could stay in it seemingly forever. Sometimes it feels like a wonderful place for meditation. Every experience is different. So enjoy that, play with that. If you roll out of it, try and roll forward, right? Like tuck your chin into your chest so that you become a little ball and you roll out of it. Great thing about home practice, there's not neighbors that you have to worry about kicking down. That takes a little bit of the element of fear out, right? But that's what we're working on. We're working on removing that element of fear. We're also working on taking smart, calculated risks and building blocks, right? Removing ego, instead doing the work. So enjoy that. If you have questions, you can message me. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. Namaste.